Hi, my name is Alana. I'm the founder of Three Pillars Holistic Health. I am a licensed acupuncturist, a Ayurvedic practitioner, as well as a registered nurse. And I specialize in treating a number of different things, including pain, both chronic and acute, as well as a number of chronic health conditions. I came to this medicine because of digestive issues that I've had throughout my life. And so I love treating digestive problems, anything ranging from leaky gut to SIBO to just your run of the mill, irregular indigestion kind of symptoms. I also treat a lot of autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, skin conditions, women's health issues, as well as hormone balance. So, without further ado, I want to talk about gut health today. And this is kind of a combination of things throughout my education and my experience in all of those things: Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, and Western medicine combined. Basically, our digestion is the root of our health, according to both facets of Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine. And when we have a good gut health, good balance of our microbiome, we tend to have better overall health, including better immunity, better metabolic function, even better cognitive function. You've probably heard about the gut brain axis, how our gut is actually really helpful for clear thinking, for memory, all of these things. And so we can talk a little bit more about that. So, from an Ayurvedic perspective, we want to try to incorporate the 6 different tastes into our meals. Each taste offers a different property for healing, according to Ayurveda, and those tastes are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, and astringent. Pungent may also be called spicy. And typically, the standard American diet, or SAD, as you may have heard, is primarily the taste sweet, salty, and sour. And we don't get a lot of bitter, pungent, or astringent foods. So bitter foods are really important for detoxifying the liver, for purifying the blood, for helping with the skin. Those things might be your dark leafy greens, coffee is bitter, dark chocolate is bitter. Mostly vegetables is where you're going to find that bitter taste. The astringent taste is a little less common as well, and you'll find that in things like green grapes. Some of the more unripened fruits and vegetables have more astringency. A dry wine, anything that kind of makes your mouth pucker, that is the astringent taste. Temperature of food is also really key, and we'll talk more about that in a different section. You want to incorporate different textures and temperatures in your diet. So we're really working with balance. If you are a cold type, you tend to run cold, your hands and feet are always cold, your digestion is sluggish, you have some of these maybe hypothyroid sounding symptoms, weight gain, sluggishness, you're just overall maybe what we would call constitutionally a cold type. You benefit from eating warm to more spicy foods. If you are a warm, hot type, meaning you have things like heartburn, acne, acid reflux, inflammation in general, like any of these itis kind of things, you're probably a little bit more on the hot side, either constitutionally or you've just gotten out of balance and become hot. In which case, we prefer cooling foods and taking out spicy foods, things that are heating, like alcohol, red meat, fried greasy foods, and spices. We also talk about texture. So if you're someone that runs too dry, meaning you have dry skin, dry eyes, there's a ton of symptoms about dryness. And living in Colorado, we know well what those are: cracky joints, scratchy throat. So if you're someone who's more on the dry side, you really need to focus on foods that are more oily and moistening in nature, like soups and stews, rather than baked foods or crackers or chips, things that are already dry. And then, of course, we want to focus on seasonal eating. So in the summer, we want to eat more cooling foods because it's hot out. In the winter, when it's cold, we want to eat more warming foods to balance the nature of the season. In the fall, it tends to be dry, so we're going to incorporate more oily foods. And depending on where you live, you may not have true seasons like this, but just take nature into account when you're meal planning and shopping at your local farmer's market or your grocery store. Try to counter the effects of what's happening in nature for the best results. Okay, so back to cold, back to temperature. One thing as Americans that you don't see in other countries is we really love our ice water. You go to a restaurant and you get ice water wherever you go. I hate to say this is usually an unpopular topic, but ice water is not good for us. It slows down our digestion. It is cold, which causes constriction. Think about when you're cold. You just want to constrict and bundle up. It also constricts the blood vessels. And that's the opposite of what we need for digestion. We need things moving, we need things flowing, and we need more blood flow to our gut to help with the processes of digestion. So if we're putting cold on our hot digestive fire, as it's supposed to be, then we're slowing down the process of digestion, impairing digestion. And especially if you're someone who already runs cold, you may find that cold upon cold is going to cause even more digestive symptoms like loose stools, diarrhea, undigested food in your stools. So as best as you can, try to avoid cold food and drink, specifically ice water with your food. And in general, choose warm or room temp drinks. And then cold foods as well do the same thing. So like ice cream, salad straight out of the fridge, anything straight out of the fridge, you want it warm or let it come to room temperature. For best digestive function, you really want well-cooked, easy to digest foods. So warm is always going to be easier than cold to digest. Of that same nature, raw food is considered cold. So raw food can be very hard on our digestion too, especially if we're already having digestive issues. And you might see that you have some of those symptoms, looser stools with raw food, or you see undigested food if you're eating too many raw food. So it doesn't mean we can't eat carrots and broccoli. It just means that we're better off cooking those foods. Another big tenet of Ayurvedic medicine is eat the rainbow. I love this saying. It reminds us to eat every color. We're eating red fruits and vegetables, blueberries, yellow squashes, green everything, green spinaches, lettuces, all sorts of things. We really want to incorporate the rainbow of foods, and mostly that's going to be plant foods, as you can imagine. And what that really does is it supports the diversity of our gut microbiome. And why does our gut microbiome need diversity? Well, we have millions of different bacteria, fungi, all sorts of weird little organisms that sound very scientific, but they're essentially part of us. They're helping us function. Our gut microbiome helps things way beyond our digestion. Again, it helps our brain, it helps our immune system, it helps our metabolic function. So the more diverse and the more strong our good gut bacteria are, the more what's the word I'm looking for? Like if we have a big army of good gut bacteria, they're going to outnumber the bad gut bacteria, and they're going to win. They're going to help us to have health in general, all the things I mentioned: digestive health, metabolic health, cognitive health, immune system functioning well. So they like diversity, they like plant foods. Feed the little microbes in your gut a number of different things. If all we eat every day is meat, potatoes, grains, our poor little microbiome is just going to shrivel, and it'll do the best it can with what it has, but really it thrives on diversity. Okay, most chronic diseases will begin with inflammation to some degree, and these plant foods, again, talking about the diversity and different colors of the plant foods, they really help reduce inflammation as they contain many polyphenols, and these polyphenols, or you've probably also heard them called antioxidants, are really helpful to combat inflammation in the body. So this is a big shot, but if you can aim for 30 different plant foods throughout the week, and that includes, everything from spices to vegetables to fruits to grains to beans to nuts. I'm talking about plant foods in general. So 30 different plant foods throughout the week, you're pretty much assuring that your gut and your microbiome are going to be in a good place. Fiber is another amazing fuel for the microbiome, and 30 grams a day of fiber is kind of the minimum that we're shooting for. It's going to help feed our microbiome. It's considered a prebiotic food, but it's also good for bulking. So if we have either constipation or loose stools, it can be really helpful to balance those things out. So good prebiotics, in other words, good fuel for our microbiome, include things like oats, bananas, mushrooms, legumes, nuts, apples, artichokes, asparagus, garlic if you can tolerate it. Not everyone can. Leeks and onions, same. Not everyone tolerates that well. And most spices are really beneficial. Good sources of fiber and good support and fuel for the microbiome. And then probiotics also help our gut function well. If you're more on the cold side, then you might prefer foods that are a little on the warming probiotic side, like kimchi or sauerkraut. And if you're warmer, you might choose things like yogurt or kefir for your probiotic foods. You can also take probiotic supplements, but I'm a believer that food is the best way to get your nutrients if you're eating quality food. And then something probably less talked about is the importance of eating in a calm environment. We've all done this. We've all eaten in our car. We've all eaten standing up. I remember when I worked as a registered nurse doing 12-hour shifts, I would sometimes literally just open the fridge and stand at the fridge and eat hummus and crackers or cheese and whatever, and literally not even sit down. So I don't do that anymore. I'm taking better care of myself these days. But eating in a calm environment is very important for helping our digestive process run smoothly. When we're under stress, it also stresses our digestive system. And rather than being in parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest, when we're under stress, we're under sympathetic mode, fight or flight. So when we're in fight or flight, we're definitely not prioritizing digestion. So we may see digestive issues as a result if we're eating under stressful situations, or we're eating in a hurry, or we're multitasking while we're eating, we're on our electronics, social media, getting pissed off about what people have posted. Just try to eat in a calm environment where you're having minimal stimulation, maybe some calming music, maybe a nice conversation, but see if you can make a meal a really intimate, soothing, calming experience. All right, and then don't overeat. Easier said than done, I know, sometimes, especially when we're ravenous, we tend to overeat more. There's a saying in Ayurveda that you shouldn't eat more than what your two hands can hold. So that looks like this. Ooh, that looks big from this perspective, but that's not how much I get to eat. So your little tiny hands may not need a really big meal, or your really big hands may get a bigger meal. That's just a ballpark suggestion based on some Ayurvedic recommendations, but I like it in that it's a reminder that when you have this visual and you look at a plate from like the Cheesecake Factory, you might say, ooh, that is way more than my two hands. So ideally at each meal, you're shooting for something that's roughly this size. And look at me spreading out my fingers so I can have more. But you know what I mean, right? So try to keep your portions under control, especially when it comes to carbohydrates. We want to have mostly vegetables on our plates, a smaller portion of protein depending on your body weight and your activity, 4 to 8 ounces of protein per meal. And then your grains should be less than that, less than the two of those things. And then of course healthy fats, including oils at your meals. And I guess we'll just jump into that now, but some of the best fats and oils you can choose are fruit oils, which would be avocado, coconut, olive oil, and you typically want to avoid more of the vegetable oils like corn, safflower, canola, soybean. Those oils tend to be more inflammatory. I'm a big fan of butter and ghee, but I'm not vegan, and I grew up Italian, and I've eaten butter my whole life. So steer clear of margarine. If you're a butter versus margarine person, choose the butter. If you don't eat animal products, stick to the fruit oils. Kind of got off topic there, but don't overeat, choosing good oils. A really helpful thing if you're struggling with managing glucose levels is just taking a short walk after your meals. Walk for 15 minutes, 10 minutes if you only have 10. Take your dog for a walk around the block, take yourself for a walk around the block. It'll help you metabolize your meal, and it will also keep you from overeating and going back for seconds. So for better glucose control, a quick hack, just go for a walk around the block. Digestion, just like everything else in our life, thrives off of regular rhythms. I actually learned that your microbiome does much better when we have regular rhythms. It's like these little critters in your gut are just like, they wake up like we do, and they're like, okay, it's breakfast time, it's lunchtime. So they do best when we feed them on a regular schedule. So as best as you can, try to keep your breakfast around the same time, lunch and dinner. Which brings me to avoiding snacking, also not a very popular topic among a lot of people. But really, if you're eating a balanced meal with mostly vegetables, decent size of protein for your body weight and activity level, and then healthy fats and a little bit of carbs if you are a carb eater. I'm a carb eater, so I don't want to throw that under the bus, but if you're eating that balanced diet and you're eating enough food at each meal, you shouldn't need a snack, right? 3 times a day is enough for most people. So if you are hungry enough to need a snack, you might need to look at the content of your meal and your food combining. Another reason Ayurvedic medicine specifically doesn't like snacking is that we have a digestive process that begins in our mouth and ends in our intestines. So when we have food that we've eaten from the previous meal, and let's say it's down here in our intestines doing the thing it needs to do to get the nutrients absorbed and move through, well, then we put something in our mouth, and then we have to stop what we're doing down here in our intestines, come up here and start this process. We're going to prioritize the new food coming in over the old food that's sitting here. So this stuff down here isn't going to get digested very well. It's going to prioritize this. So give your meal the time it deserves to do its thing through the digestive tract so that you can extract all the nutrients and let that process move through before you're putting more in. I remember growing up and being in the fitness industry, and it was like, you've got to have a snack in between meals. You've got to eat 5 times a day, and that really just isn't true. Unless you're like a bodybuilder or an endurance athlete, then you really don't need to be snacking. Sorry if I burst anyone's bubble. But yes, if you're putting in 50 to 100 miles on your bicycle, you should be snacking. You eat those snacks and those carbohydrates to fuel you through your intense ride. This is just for the average person. All right. And then intermittent fasting. This is kind of a hit or miss topic. Depends who you talk to on this one. Ayurveda is a big fan of fasting if you are the right constitutional type. If you are overly thin and you can't gain weight and you feel depleted overall, fasting is not for you. But if you are inflamed, if you are overweight, if you are dealing with digestive issues or chronic conditions like autoimmune, certain conditions really do well with intermittent fasting, and it's really personalized. So I don't want to just blanket statement out there that everyone should be doing this or no one should be doing this. But in general, it's some research shows that you start tapping into fat stores after 12 to 13 hours of fasting. And fasting that doesn't have to be intense, right? That just means you eat dinner at 6 p.m. and you don't eat breakfast till 9 a.m. I don't know if I did the math right there, but that's a pretty good chunk of time to be fasting, right? 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. or even 10 a.m. Another thing is try not to eat too late at night. Try not to eat past 7 p.m. if possible, depending on your lifestyle and your work schedule. But eating later at night just means that rather than prioritizing the rest and repair function when we sleep, we are going to be busy digesting. So we're not going to be working on other things that our body needs, like repairing our cells, repairing cell damage, keeping our immune system in order. So try not to eat too late at night. And also our metabolism is slowest at the end of the day. So you're also working against that when you eat big meals, especially late at night. Hydration is really key for good digestion as well. Interestingly, you don't want to drink a lot of your fluids with your meal because you're going to dilute your stomach acids. So keep that in mind and try to drink your fluids prior to meals or in between meals. You can drink 6 to 12 ounces of water, warm or room temp, before a meal, 30 minutes before a meal, to help with digestion and to help you get a little bit more full so you don't overeat. But never ice water with meals, never iced drinks with meals. And throughout the day, how much should you drink? Kind of the general rule is your body weight in pounds divided by 2. Or if you're really active, you're going to be drinking a lot more than that. If you sweat a lot, you're going to be drinking a lot more than that. And you might even need electrolytes to replenish if you're an athlete. So yeah, 120 pound person will need about 60 ounces of water a day. And that's not set in stone. That's just, everybody will find their rhythm, but try to drink at least that. Chewing your food properly aids digestion, so be sure not to wolf down your meal. As I said before, sit down and enjoy it, make it an experience. And then how to repair the gut. So once we already have gut issues, step 1 is you have to take out problematic foods, because if you're taking all these supplements and doing all these protocols and taking herbs and you're doing everything right, but you're not eliminating the problem foods, you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So start by taking out problematic foods. For some people, that might mean a full-on elimination diet. For others, that might mean just taking out kind of the big five or so, and narrowing it down and bringing those back in. So some of the foods that are hardest for people to digest are sugar, gluten, dairy, soy, and corn. In general, processed foods, I kind of lump that in too, because processed foods just have a lot of weird stuff in them that we don't really know what we're getting. A lot of it's chemicals and substances that are banned in other countries. And so if you're having a lot of gut issues, especially leaky gut, as best as you can, eliminate highly processed foods. Alcohol is also a problematic food for many people, especially, like I said before, people with heat symptoms, a lot of inflammation. Alcohol in general is pretty tough on the gut and the digestive system, as well as our hormones, as well as our metabolic function and our sleep. So choose your battles wisely. Not to say you can never drink alcohol or never do anything like that again, but just, if you're dealing with some intense digestive issues or health problems, you might just want to cut back and see how your body responds. As I said before, feed your gut with good prebiotics and probiotics to help repair damaged tissue. And then some other things to avoid if you're having gut issues are overly spicy foods, non-grass-fed meats. Grass-fed is more important than organic, in my opinion. Fried food, which is typically using vegetable oils, that can be hard on the gut. Refined sugar, and then again, the highly processed foods that you're reading the package and the ingredient list is this long and you don't even know what those things are. Try to avoid eating foods that sound like a chemistry experiment. All right, and then this goes in line with that, is just eat foods close to nature. So try to eat fruits, vegetables, things that you recognize: chicken, fish, rice, things that your grandmother would recognize. We always hear that saying, but it's so true. And if you put all these things into action and you still don't feel better, then you might be a good candidate for an elimination diet, maybe a detox protocol, herbal medicine, or certain supplements that can help the gut. And then I'll end with a saying that I really love, and I'm not sure who to give credit, but if you want to be healthy, keep your body moving, your breath moving, and your bowels moving. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions or if you need to contact me, you can find me at www.3pillars3holistichealth.com. Let me say that again. www.3pillars3holistichealth.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day.